everybody, this is Elissa from Mink Arts and Crafts, and today we are going to do a WIP Chat. So WIP stands for Work in Progress and Chat stands for, chat. So I'm going to chat a little bit about my week, or a little bit about the last couple weeks. I apologize in advance. Mylan is doing some heavy breathing over on the other side of the room, but it's probably going to be all you can hear. It's really hot outside, so she's been outside and she came inside, and now she's just going to breathe heavy instead of going and drinking water. So the heavy breathing is my dog, because she refuses to go drink water and she refuses to go lay down. So she's just going to stand there and breathe heavily in the corner instead of doing either of the things. And now that I talk about her, she's like, oh, fine, I'll lay down. So today I am working on my second Summer with the Masters kit, which is Hokusai is the Great Wave off Kanagawa. And this is, my drill placement looks really bad right now because this is a double-sided adhesive, and this is my first time ever working with a double-sided adhesive. So if you're not familiar with double-sided adhesive, one of the telltale things is when the canvas comes and it's got this yellow like parchment-y type paper placed down over it instead of the clear plastic. That's kind of a tell that it was made with a double-sided adhesive as opposed to the standard poured glue that you see as kind of like the go-to nowadays. But the overall canvas, it's this typical budgety kit type of canvas, but the drills are actually a really high quality drill and they look really nice. I have not had any trash at all, and I've done one entire column so far on this, and the drills look really, really good. The rounds, they look really, really good. The canvas is coming out nicely, minus granted, you'd have to have a massive canvas to be able to see the calligraphy over here for the writing and the signature block here. But other than that, and I didn't feel like doing something that big. I liked this size. It's a 45 by 35, which really means that the drill size is a true 40 by 30. But that means with this being a double-sided adhesive, I have to actually do it in sections, which I'm like, oh, woe is me kind of a thing. So that part's kind of annoying. And the fact that I have to do this, I can't slide my drills. So if you've never worked with double-sided adhesive, it does mean that once you place the drill down, it's much, much harder to move the drill on the canvas than it is to move it on a poured glue canvas. But the quality of the symbols, the quality of the drills is actually really good. So even though it is double-sided adhesive, which I didn't know when I ordered it because it didn't say that on the website when I ordered these back when I was doing my first ordering, before I knew when I first got started, before I found Diamond Art Club. I didn't know. So I have a couple different versions of the Great Wave off Kanagawa because this is one of my favorite images. And when I say it's one of my favorite images, I'll show you I have a Lego version of the Great Wave off Kanagawa. I also have I have multiple Lego versions of the Great Wave off Kanagawa. So when I say that it's my favorite thing, I mean it's my favorite image. I've always loved it. So I knew I wanted to do it. So we will get started. Tools are my typical suspects. I don't really deviate much. I tried using I know I told you guys I would kind of get back with you on using this. So I did use the Add More Zest tray I didn't use it in a WIP Chat, but I did try using it. And it was for me because I hold my tray. It was an awkward shape for me to hold. And the sides were a little bit short. And that was challenging for me because it's like, it was an awkward shape in these edges because of how I hold. These edges kind of bit into my fingers a little bit for holding like this because of the fact that I hold like that. So this finger, it was fine on the first 3 fingers, but on that finger right there, because I hold literally right where that crease is, or that edge is, so that finger got a little irritated from holding basically like this right on that crease. And then I felt like for me and how I shake, the edge was a little bit too short. So for some people that don't shake as aggressively as me, this would be perfect. And I love the color, and this is extremely well made. Like, it's very well crafted and well made for the Add More Zest tray. Just for my style of how I work and how I hold the trays, it does not work well. So it's very, like I have to say, very well made. Love the color, love a lot of the aspects about it. And you have a very, like, the amount of drill usage that you get out of this is fantastic. But for my way of working, it does not work that well. So this will go into the basically the this will go into the pile of things that I will do for giveaways, so that way somebody else who would potentially get more use out of it for how they work, and then it doesn't sit here and like molder away into the unused realm. And I am going to use my Bella Art de Nicole trays because, you know, those are my go-to trays, but I am using you'll get a sneak peek of one that I have done the unbox. I've recorded the video. I always get little things on, but you have not seen this color for me to use yet because I've recorded the video, but the video will not go up for a number of weeks now. But I'm going to use this one here. I haven't swapped out pens. I need to swap out pens. So right now I'll probably use this pen right here for most of it because I haven't done a pen swap yet. And this is Carrie Costello over Leopard Leatherworks with the Diamond Art Club because I don't need a lot. I may swap it out a little bit with this one from Enabler's Outpost, which I think has my 8 placer, and this is another Enabler's Outpost with the 10 placer. So those are the 3 pens that I have on my tray at the moment. And we will get into it. So, hope everybody has been having a wonderful week. I do have a kit that I want to snag. We're going to work on the J's. I do want to snag this. So I'm recording this on Saturday morning. And I do want to snag, yeah. See, this is super sticky on my hand, which drives me, I made this one a little bit wider than normal. Oh yeah, I need to reload my patty wax. And I'm using some Mary Mud lemon chiffon flavor and patty wax in coconut craziness. Those are the 2 flavors I'm using right now. I will probably pause the video because I'm filming on Saturday morning, so I'll pause it probably at like 8:45, just before 8:45, because I do want to go on. And actually, this is the first Saturday in like weeks that I, besides when, see, that one fell, so now I need to snag that back up, which I should grab the tweezers to do that. But I just trimmed my fingernails for work because I have to keep them super short for work. And it's hard to pick things up now that I have my short fingernails. As I was saying, and I'm struggling to say, I just trimmed my fingernails for, that wasn't what I was going to say. So I was trying to say, I haven't purchased any new releases really besides flower delivery for most of June and July, but I do want to snag the new Ivy Dollamore, the one of the artists. I can't remember the name of it. I want to snag that one this morning because I do paint, and my mom is also an artist as well. And then I also want to snag sorry, I have some like itchiness on my nose. I also want to snag, it's really bright on the canvas. Maybe, there, I'll just turn that light off. I like having the drills be all shiny, but don't like the reflection right on that. So we'll just turn that off. And then I also want to snag the Chrysabug, the new Zodiac from Chrysabug, because I'm trying to collect all of her Zodiacs. I think there was one that I missed that I'm waiting for it to restock. So this will be my first time doing a actual release in a while. So I'll be pausing the video to do that. And then I will continue on. Ugh. See, I don't like how sticky. Well, it's good to have a sticky canvas, but the double-sided adhesive is a whole different type of sticky. Anyways, so I'm gonna kind of start with like my diamond painting updates for you guys, and then I'll go into life updates. I know I didn't get a chance to do any kind of like regular updates for you guys last week, so but I haven't had a lot to update you guys on over the course of this past week. It was a relatively like benign week. I don't do a lot in my life, so my life is kind of boring. I'm boring. I'm a homebody. I don't go places besides work and do a whole lot. So you'll get kind of like 2 weeks kind of mushed into one. But we'll start with the diamond painting updates. So I'm working on this one here that you can see, my Hokusai painting. I do a lot of small kits. That's why like every WIP Chat, you pretty much see a new painting. I know everybody was probably like, what? You're not working on a flower delivery for your WIP Chat? No. And that's because it takes a lot more. That's a square, and it takes a lot more for me to focus on squares, so it's harder for me to do a square for a WIP Chat. So I typically work on rounds for WIP Chats. It's just the focus I have to do when I'm working on squares. I have to pay attention to what I'm doing, and it's hard to talk and do a square at the same time. So yeah, and then also the fact that I'm trying to kind of like record and pay attention to how long it takes me to do each section. So that would throw off the number if I was recording a WIP Chat, because I do work slower on a section when I'm doing a WIP Chat because I'm talking at the same time. So it takes me a lot longer to do a section, or well, not really a section because I don't work in sections, but I am for the flower delivery and for this one obviously, which I don't like doing. Blah. Sections, blah. I hate sections. So I didn't want to do, see, I don't like the sticky. So basically I don't want to throw off my calculations and my timing and everything for flower delivery and kind of my tracking and everything. It'll kind of like throw a confounding variable into the mix, and it would be inaccurate, like an inaccuracy. So I'm like, I don't want to do that. So we're working on this one instead. And plus I was working on flower delivery earlier this week. I didn't do any diamond painting yesterday at all. And there's a reason for that. I'll explain why when I get to yesterday in my WIP Chat talking of everything. See, I like to lay a finger down on the canvas, but it's just so sticky because it's the double-sided adhesive. And look at like how off those drills are right there. And then when I try to do my normal correct them with my finger, it's much harder because they're like glued down. Well, they are because it's glue. but that's beside the point. Anyways, on we go. So last weekend I did the, so I'm working on this one. I'm getting ahead of myself because I want to talk a little bit more about what I'm working on. So I'm doing this one here, and then this will be my only other ones. I'll have just done the 2 kits for July for Summer with the Masters. I think that's all I'll do for Summer with the Masters for July instead of the other ones that I had originally planned to do. So, because I did Starry Night, which you saw me working on last week, and then I will be doing this one, my Hokusai, The Great Wave off Kanagawa, and then I am working on my flower delivery series, or comparison series, which that's going to be an ongoing project. I'm definitely not going to finish that this month. There is absolutely no way. I'll be doing those nice and slow, one section at a time. In those videos, I'll be posting up on Fridays. I finished my first section and posted that video up yesterday, which was Friday. If you're watching this video on Saturday, which is when I recorded it. Does that go there? Yes, it does. Okay. And then I have to decide what I want to kit up as well once I finish this one. This one's going to take me a little bit to do, but my goal is to finish this one this weekend, between today and tomorrow. Finish this one this weekend so that way I can kit up another one and have another fun one to do. I'm thinking of kitting up an Oraloa, but we'll see. Because I kind of want to work on the Oraloa that I did the unboxing for you guys. I kind of want to kit that one up. I'm feeling the need for some Aloha. And that one just really reminds me of Hawaii. So I'm feeling like kitting her up. But I will have to look through and see. But I'm like, well, maybe since I've got flower delivery going, maybe I need to do some... Ow, as I got the drill right up underneath my fingernail. Don't do that, guys. Don't do that. That was not pleasant. Maybe I need to do something a little bit more, work on some of my smaller ones, some snacks. I'll pull out my kits and look and see. We will see, but I feel, yeah. So that's what I'm thinking. Maybe the Le Petit Miss from Oraloa. Maybe, I don't know, I have to pull them out and look because I've got a lot of them, but that's one that's been sitting there that I already unboxed. I'm like, well, I could do that one. I have my Sparkle Queen Creations ones that I already unboxed for you guys that I've got the special drills for that I could do that's already sitting there kind of waiting. And those are both smaller ones that would go quick because they're like the 30 by 40 ones, and that would be kind of like nice small ones to do in the midst of doing like the big project of my flower delivery kit. So I'm kind of like thinking about that. And then, so I'm kind of like, which way do I go? Do I do the small one, or do I do a small one like a Sparkle Queen, or do I go for a larger one, my Oraloa? Both of those would be like my first time working on one of those canvases, which I kind of like having that variety because, and that was one of the things, like when it was like one of the questions from last week, if you could only buy from like one shop for the rest of your life, who would it be and why? And I'm like, well, I had only really worked on, I've purchased from multiple shops, but I had only yet worked on Diamond Art Club and then the one Crafties canvas. So I'm like, I can't really answer that question accurately because I've only worked on Diamond Art Club. I've purchased art from other companies, but I hadn't worked on art from other companies. So I don't feel like I can give a good response to that if my experience, I haven't yet used, like worked on their kits. I don't feel like I can give a good response if I haven't actually, Pig is repositioning. She likes to kick the wall. She always has to have a foot touching, her back feet have to be touching the wall. She's a weird dog. A weird dog. So anyways, let me know in the comments which way you think I should go. Should I do another snack size kit? Both of those, well, all three of those kits are rounds because you know me, I like my rounds. And both flower deliveries are obviously in squares. So should I do Le Petit Miss, or should I do rainbow poop emoji, or the other rainbow one, the rainbow cloud one? Which kit should I go with? Let me know. Choices. Or should I go with something completely different? I have a lot of kits in my stash. Anyways, so now we'll kind of get into everything. So we'll start with like 2 weeks ago. So, yeah, I have my notes of what I did like 2 weeks ago after, because I like recorded and posted my WIP Chat last time, 2 weeks ago WIP Chat. And then after that WIP Chat, I kind of like started taking and jotting down notes, and then I got tagged with the tag questions and didn't have any chance to go into anything from the tag question because I spent so much time going over the tag questions because I talked a lot. I think it's because I don't really like talking to people in person much, so I did all my talking to you guys. But let's see. Monday. Oh yes, I was gonna talk, like, I have some like random comments of things I was like that I thought would be kind of interesting. One of the things that I wrote down to share with you guys was like what I ate. I was like, I'm reading this, that's why I paused awkwardly, because I'm like, okay, I thought it would be interesting to tell you guys what I ate on that Saturday. Apparently I wrote down the food that I ate was basically, I kind of made myself, I don't like bread products, so I apparently made myself like a sort of charcuterie board, which basically means that I bought like a little some like pre-sliced little cheesy type cheeses from the grocery store. They were already pre-sliced, so I didn't have to actually slice them, and some like a little thing of salamis that was already pre-sliced. So I had cheese and salami was, you know, one of my meals on Saturday. And then I had it with like guacamole because that sounded delicious to have cheese and salami and guacamole. I don't know why that, yeah, right? That's random. And then like later on in the day, I had some chewy chips Ahoy because, you know, why not? This is what I like. Sometimes I'm like, why do I eat so horribly? But I guess that's sometimes I eat really well, and then sometimes I'm like, I eat like worse than my brother. My brother eats like a 16-year-old boy, even though he's older than me. I'm like, my goodness. And then I had ice cream for dinner because if I eat ice cream after dinner, it screws with my sleep and I wake up with a migraine. So I had ice cream for dinner. But I think I had, and that was on Saturday. That was like 2 weeks ago Saturday. Sunday I didn't really do anything besides like chill and diamond paint and do stuff around the house. Monday, I think it was because I went grocery shopping on Saturday, and when I get home from grocery shopping, I'm usually like done, and even though I have literally just bought groceries, I am like, I have no food. What am I gonna eat? And I usually end up eating horribly because I have no energy to do anything because I just spent all my energy grocery shopping, which is always crazy. Anybody else feel that way? Like when you go grocery shopping, you're exhausted and done for? But that was like Saturday. Sunday was nothing to talk about. Monday, I had like this horrible migraine on Monday, which a lot of times happens when with work and whatnot, and especially if it's a day where I have to spend a lot of time doing excessive staring at the computer. We're gonna go to the bigger one for these. So I'll get a migraine when I have to stare at the computer for long periods of time. So I did, and I shouldn't have because this is just not So it's always when I go to the, like, the different angle of staring at, like, putting these drills down. And I always feel like some people have no issues, like, doing things that it's like, oh, hey, you can take advantage of this aspect of things. I always feel bad doing that. So, with where I work at the hospital, of course, I'm a physical therapist, and the hospital is divided into what are called directorates, so multiple departments that are kind of clumped together and answer to the same boss. So, and in our case, I fall underneath, like, clinical support services, so, you know, physical therapy, radiology, pharmacy, laboratory, we're kind of clinical support services. And it's one of those things where a lot of times, you know, because of how we fall together and being in, like, a leadership position, it's one of those things where I can reach out to, instead of me going and waiting in line in the pharmacy to get medications filled, because of the position I'm in, I can basically, like, my boss is a pharmacist, and, like, he's one of the pharmacists at the hospital, but he oversees that entire directorate. And what I can do, instead of having to go wait in line for the pharmacy, as, like, a courtesy for, like, those in the leadership positions, I could basically be like, hey, I could kind of reach out to one of the people and be like, hey, can you fill this prescription for me? And they'll, like, verify my information, and they'll then go get the prescription and bring it to me in my office, so I don't have to go wait in line at the pharmacy. But I've, like, never done that before, because I'm like, I can go wait in line. I don't need special treatment. So I've never taken advantage of all of that. But, like, Monday, I was, like, doing things, and I had this horrible migraine, and I was out of my migraine meds, and I was like, I need to go get my prescription filled. It was on my to-do list, but I hadn't got around to doing it yet. And I was like, I need to just do this. I don't have time to go sit in line right now. I can do it at the end of the day, but I need this done. So one of the people that usually comes through and does that, he would happen to be walking down the hallway outside of my office, because my boss's office is across the hall from my office. He was walking down because he had just talked to my boss, and I was like, hey, but as he was walking past, he just finished talking to my boss. I was like, hey, can you fill this prescription for me? And he was like, oh, no, absolutely, no problem at all. So and it's like, I feel so guilty doing that, but it's like, you know, it's one of those things that, and he was like, and what he came back, and he like brought it back to me afterwards, and he's like, anytime you need, just, you know, just, like, let us know, and we will do this for you. And I'm like, because, you know, that was my first time ever doing it. But at the same time, I'm like, I felt so guilty doing it, even though it's kind of one of those things where, yeah, I don't know. I'm just that person where I don't like doing something like that, because I'm like, I'm perfectly capable of going down and sitting in the pharmacy and waiting just like everybody else. So I felt so guilty doing it. But I guess that's just me. But, like, I know so many others, like, no one else, like, all the other people that I work with that, like, they do it all the time, and they have absolutely no issues doing it, and they think nothing of it. But for me, I'm just like, I don't know, I felt weird doing that. But at the same time, it was like, it saved me, you know, the time of going down there, because, you know, I had a deadline for the paperwork that I was doing, and I had to get the stuff done that I was doing. And you know, it saved me having to go down there, wait in line, which is not like our pharmacy is super busy. We're not that big. We're small. But it still saved me that time, saved me that effort. But I don't know. I just felt weird doing that. But I still did it. I don't know if I'll do it again. I probably won't. I'll probably go back to my be a normal person and go wait in line. But I did that. As soon as he walked out, I'm like, okay, I gotta take one of these pills because my migraine was like so bad. And Tuesday, the weather kind of cooled off a little bit on Tuesday. It was kind of that Tuesday. It's not cooled off now. So that was kind of like nice. It wasn't as blazing hot that Tuesday. It was like, ooh, what is this? It's a little bit cooler. So we were all kind of like, oh wow, this is nice. It was a little bit of a breather on Tuesday. Didn't feel as hot. And then on Wednesday, that was like Wednesday the 12th. I had to drive down to San Diego for a retirement ceremony for a sailor who had been a patient of mine previously, and then she had been stationed with me on the aircraft carrier as well a few years back when I was stationed on the aircraft carrier. So she had been a patient of mine, and she was one that she had a very severe injury that was kind of like a life-changing, career-ending injury. I think I had mentioned previously that she had asked me to go to her retirement ceremony. Well, at the last minute, her presiding officer, which is the person who actually does like her retirement ceremony, does like the speech and sits up on the stage and is the one who actually is her retiring officer, at the last minute had to do official travel and couldn't go. So like the Friday before, she reached out to me and she was like, ma'am, can you be my presiding officer? I know it's last minute. And I was like, 100% yes, I will. Because I have never had a patient who has worked as hard as she did. Like, she was phenomenal. Like, she basically ended up with a permanent disability, but did not let that stop her. And rather than accepting like a medical retirement and getting out of the military and moving on about her day, was like, no, I'm not doing this, and fought and stayed in with a permanent injury that she still has to this day, and went back to the ship and fought for it. And her goal 10 years ago when I worked with her was to go back to the ship and make it to retirement. And here we are, 10 years later, and she just did her retirement ceremony. So I thought that was absolutely incredible, because that was her goal, was to make it to retirement. So I had to write a speech for her, which when you write a speech and you have to say words for a ceremony like that, for me at least, I have to be in the mood. And granted, this is my first time being the retiring officer for anything like that, so it was a huge, huge honor. So I have to be in the mood for writing something like that. So I hadn't been in the mood all weekend. I was like, I need to write this, but what am I going to say? I kind of knew a gist of what I wanted to say. So finally, I actually ended up writing it as I was driving down to San Diego. I basically was like rehearsing, because it was like a 3.5 hour drive with traffic, and I left at like before 6 o'clock in the morning. I left to drive down there so we could do the rehearsal and everything else. So I started driving down Wednesday morning and basically was rehearsing it in my head. And then once I got to like kind of solidified a little bit of what I wanted to say, then I started practicing it out loud. And basically by the time I got down there, I had it like pretty much memorized. And then I got there a little bit early, so I sat in my car and kind of like typed it out on my phone, so that way I could have like the notes of what I was going to say, because once you get up there and start talking, you're going to like lose track of what you want to say. So that way I could follow the notes on my phone, and had my speech all typed out, so that way I could actually, have it all worded out exactly what I wanted to say. And oh my goodness, it went well. It was like, it was perfect. It ended up being the exact perfect thing to say for it. It was well done. Not trying to like toot my own horn, but I felt like it was the perfect balance. It ended up being exactly what I needed to say for her and for the ceremony, and exactly what it needed to be for her family to hear, and everything for that. So that went really well. That was good. But at the same time, you know, it's such a long drive to drive down to San Diego and then drive back up, especially in the same day, because that's a 3.5 hour drive down. I was there by like 9:30, a little bit before 9:30. The ceremony didn't start until like 11:30, and then there was the reception afterwards. So then I didn't leave until 2 o'clock, and I had to drive all the way back up after 2 o'clock. So that just made for a really long day. So by the time I got back up here, it was like 5:30, 5:30-ish, closer, because there was a lot of traffic. So that was like 7 hours of driving. I was exhausted, you guys. And then, of course, I had to go back to work because it's not just like, oh, hey, here, go do this, and then you get the day off. No, I then had to go back to work. So then I go back to work on Thursday. I didn't go back to work on Wednesday because the day is already done. So then I had to go to work on Thursday. So worked Thursday, normal day, worked on Friday, and Friday actually felt like a really productive day at work. Like I kind of felt like I made a lot of progress on stuff, because I've been feeling like I've been kind of stuck in these doldrums of like this blah blah type mood at work lately, and I feel like Friday I kind of like got out of that stage. And Friday was kind of funny. So we had our change of command. So we have our new commanding officer, our new CO, who's kind of like the new boss of the hospital. And let's see, I'm doing arrows. And I had to go give him a receipt for something, which I was just dropped off at the command suite. I didn't like go bring it into his office or anything. I was like, I don't need to see him for this. I'll just drop it off the command suite. But the XO, our executive officer, was there, and I've worked pretty closely with him for a lot of different things, for things that I do. And he saw me, and he was like, oh, hey. He was like, oh, I'll go take that in to him. So he took the receipt in to the commanding officer, and then he was like, hey, you got a moment? And I'm like, oh, yeah, absolutely, definitely, because, I mean, like, you always have a moment for the XO. And granted, it was like 4:30 on a Friday afternoon, because I was actually being productive and getting stuff done, and I'm like, if I'm getting stuff done, I don't care that it's 4:30 on a Friday afternoon. I felt like I was actually being productive for once, and not just, like, working and not doing anything, because sometimes you feel like you're working but you're not getting anything done. You're just like getting by, but you're not doing things. I don't know if you know what I mean, where you feel like you're doing but not getting anything done. That kind of sense. I feel like I've been doing that for like months. And Friday I felt like I was actually getting stuff done. So I just kept working, and it was like 4:30, and I went and dropped off the receipt, and then XO saw me, and he was like, hey, and he was like, do you want a piece of cake? He had like this big old massive chocolate cake that he had brought in. He's like, I've got one piece of cake left, and I don't want to take it home. So of course I left his office with this big old massive piece of chocolate cake that he didn't want to go home with, which was a really, really good piece of chocolate cake. But there was like this collateral, like this so basically, being military, we have your basic duty, which for me is a physical therapist and department head. And then you have all your collateral duties. So all the extra things that you have to do, because you're not in the military just to do your job. You're in the military to do your job plus all the extras. If you don't want to do all of those extra things, well, get out of the military and be a civilian. Like, that's what it comes down to. If I wanted to be just a physical therapist, well, I can do that as a civilian and work for the government as a civilian physical therapist. That's what it comes down to. So he was like, hey, we've got this extra duty coming up, this extra collateral job coming up that I think you'd be a really good candidate for. Have you thought about applying to it? And I was like, actually, I was planning on applying to that job. Anyways, I was already thinking about applying to it. And he was like, excellent, perfect. I think that you'd be really good for it. And I had and then he was like, and there was another one that I just got selected for that he wanted to like congratulate me for another collateral extra duty that I just got selected for. So he wanted to congratulate me on that. So that happened on Friday. And then Saturday and Sunday, I didn't really do much of anything because I'm a lazy slob and a bum, and I'm busy during the week at work. So my weekends, I like to do a whole lot of nothing. And I'm a homebody. I'm like the most introverted introvert possible. I exude a lot of energy at work, and I have to fake being extroverted at work. So when I'm at home, I'm at home. And if you want me to do something during the week, or if you want me to do something and go somewhere with you, you better have planned that out with me, or we better have discussed that days in advance, because if you pop something on me like Saturday morning, hey, you want to come do something with me tonight? I'm going to be like, oh, sorry, no, I can't, even though in reality, I don't say I have plans because I usually never actually have plans. I'm just going to tell you that I can't, because I have already mentally planned and like plotted out what energy I want to exert on things, and that energy has already been allotted to not go out and do something. But if I've mentally like planned to do something ahead of time, that's different. So if I'm like, okay, it's Wednesday or Thursday, I've already made plans to do something with someone this weekend, then I'm fine with it. But I can't do last minute things, because that's my brain doesn't work that way, and that will just like mess with my my system doesn't work that way. I can't do last minute stuff. It's just too exhausting for me, like just mentally and socially exhausting, and I don't do well with it. I have to have the plan all set out and planned out in advance. Anyways, so I didn't do anything on the weekend. It's way too hot to go outside and do anything. So like I haven't been going to the national park lately because, we're in the triple digits. We're going to put this one right there. So it's in the triple digits. It's been running like last weekend. It was 100 up to like 113. This entire week it's been running up to like we've been hovering around like the 110s to the 110 up to like the 113s, somewhere around in there all week long. So it's been really hot up here. And don't come at me with that whole, oh, but it's a dry heat. Come on, you guys. Once it gets to a certain temperature, it's just plain hot. It doesn't matter whether it's humid. It doesn't matter whether it's dry. It's just plain hot. And I've lived in extremely humid climates. I've lived a lot of places because, military, I move all the time. I've lived in all the humid locations. I've lived in now dry locations. And when you get to a certain level, it's just plain hot. And you're telling me that when you walk outside and you try to take a deep breath in the heat, it's so hot that it literally sears your lungs, that's worse than, the humidity. Like, it's just plain hot, and hot is hot. There's no trying to one-up anybody. It's all just hot. It doesn't matter whether it's humid. It doesn't matter whether it's dry. Hot is hot. And it's just unpleasant when it's hot. And there's something about this like altitude up here and like the level that we're at. The intensity of the sun is just outrageous. I call it the death race from hell for a reason. It's like the intensity of it, and it's like if I'm wearing my uniform, it's not as bad because the material is thicker, so it like protects your flesh from the death rays. But if I like literally walking from my front door to the mailbox, which is just across my street, like if I'm wearing a t-shirt and I walk from my front door to the mailbox, my skin starts to itch and prickle. And if I stay outside long enough, I feel like I start to get hives from the sun because of how intense and hot the sun is. Just to walk across the road from my driveway across the road to get the mail from my mailbox. That's how hot and intense this sun is. And I feel like if I do anything outside like that, I feel like I need to put sunscreen on if I expose my tattoos for more than like 2 minutes just to go outside and do that. Like if I wear a tank top, to go get the mail, I'm like, I need sunscreen on. Otherwise, I feel like my tattoos are going to burn. Because I have a lot of black ink on my shoulders and my flesh. It's a whole different world, you guys. Whole different world. Oh, brutalness. The heat. Ugh. All right. I'm going to pause us and go purchase my kits, and I will be back. All right, you guys. I am back, and I got the Ivy Dolomore, Away From It All. That's what it was called, Away From It All, and the Chrysabug Libra. I've had Ivy Dolomore Fisher Gal because it reminds me of a Studio Ghibli image. So that one's been sitting in my cart waiting to see if there was anything from this weekend's images, like this weekend's releases. That one has been like one on the restock. That a lot of my wish list items, when they come back into stock, I'm like, I want it, but I don't want enough to actually purchase it. So that one has been sitting on my a lot of my wish list items as they restock. I have not actually been purchasing them, but that one is one that I'm like, when that one comes back into stock, I will be purchasing that one. And sure, so it came back into stock this week, but I was waiting to see if anything came out on this weekend's releases before I purchased it on the restock. And when I saw that the Libra did come out, I was like, well, I'm definitely going to get it with the Libra. And then I'm like, well, we'll see if there's anything else. I did not recharge this pen. I recharged my other pen, but I did not recharge this pen. There we go. Pen has been recharged. So I'll have like 15 minutes of talking left for you guys, or thereabouts. Try to keep it a little under. I'm trying to shorten my videos so they're not quite as horribly long for you guys, because I know it's a lot of listening. I actually, when I drove down to San Diego yesterday, I actually, listened to a couple WIP Chats as I was driving, because, again, that's a 3.5-hour drive. So I did some WIP Chats, because then you don't have to necessarily watch what you're doing or anything. You can just put it on YouTube as I'm driving, and then put my maps back up and just listen. So that's what I did while I was driving. Anyways, so I kind of got through the first week and didn't really do anything last weekend, because again, I don't do much on the weekends because I'm a homebody, and I had already budgeted out my what I was going to do socially wise, and it did not include actually socializing with anybody. Go figure. I do not do a lot of socializing because one, it takes a lot for me to actually make friends, and it's tough when you're constantly moving somewhere new every 18 months or so. I don't really have a lot of people that I'm super close to, because again, I move every 18 to 24 months is typically when I've moved. So I don't have a lot of people that I'm super close to outside of my family. So it makes it kind of hard to and I don't make friends easily, because I'm super I'm really good at faking it in a work setting. But when it comes to a personal setting, the making friends type of thing, yeah, that's a struggle for me. I'm not very good at that. I feel like that's really hard to do, and personal relationships are a lot different than a working relationship. So I find that a challenge. Let's see. Boom, boom, boom. Let's see. Sorry, I got distracted by doing that. All right, so this week, what did I do on Monday? Work on Monday. And I've been productive lately, like I said, so I've been working a little bit later each day, because I've been, actually getting stuff done again. I'll go through phases where I'll be able to actually leave a decent time. And then I'll be like, nope, I gotta stay late to get all these things done. Because it makes me, like, anxious if I don't get stuff done. But at the same time, I'm that person that despises having to stay late at work. Like, the day is done, like, the work is always going to be there, but at the same time, I hate having too many things, like, hanging over my head. And sometimes you just got to stay late to actually get stuff done and make a dent in all of that massive, like, list of things you have to do. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword, kind of, for those things. Tuesday, I was at work for quite late on Tuesday. There was a lot going on Tuesday. I think that was like the first like weird or over like trashy drill that I had. Yeah, that's like the first, I don't know if it'll focus on it. That was like the first trashy drill that I've had, where it was one of those that has a little excess around the plastic around the edge of the drill. That was the first, which is not bad considering I've made it this far into the kit before I found one of those. Wednesday was, I didn't do a lot. I feel like it was just like a normal week, nothing spectacular to talk about. I did have to drive to Balboa yesterday to see the pulmonologist. I had to do a pulmonary function test. And for anybody who's ever had a pulmonary function test where they test you with like the medication type stuff for it, oh my goodness, I am so sorry. That was hell. It took almost an hour and a half to do the test. And it was misery. Because I feel like for me, so I have a really good lung capacity and I struggle. This is the second time I've done a pulmonary function test before. I did one when I first got back from Afghanistan in 2016. And I found it challenging to do the test then because it's like they don't let me breathe the way you can't. Like, for me at least, it's like they tell you breathe normally. So I'm breathing normally and they're like, oh, you need to take shallower breaths. I'm like, you need to take quicker and shallower breaths. And I'm like, but you told me to breathe normally. And I'm like, how? Because the way you do it, you have to take 3 breaths in. So you do inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale all the way out, a maximal exhale, but like a normal breath in, and then a normal breath out, but exhale all the way out, maximal exhale, but from a normal breath, like a normal breath. And then you do a quick at the end of that exhale. So you go inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, keep exhaling, keep exhaling, keep exhaling. And then at the end of that, you do a quick maximal inhale and keep inhaling, inhale, and then immediately exhale, whoosh, as hard as you can, as fast as you can, as long as you can. Keep going, keep going, keep going, and then inhale quickly. So that's basically what you have to do. So, did that. Well, once you do that, you then, we're on L's, okay. They get your baseline, and then they start putting this medication in there. And the whole point of it is to test your pulmonary function and to test whether you have asthma or not. So they put this diluted form of this medication in there and have you do the same test again, but you have to do it twice. And if your score drops below like 20% of your normal, then that means that you basically means that you have asthma. So, and mind you, I've been dealing with this cough that I have, this bad cough that you've heard some of, pretty much since when I got back from Afghanistan, I had it, and then it gradually resolved. It took about 6 months or so after I got back that it resolved. When I got back from Afghanistan, I went to pulmonology, did a pulmonary function test, but they didn't do the medication. They just did a pulmonary function test, and they were like, and then they sent me to ENT, and ENT scoped me, and it was like, your lungs are fine. You've got basically your vocal cords are irritated, and you can do an inhaler to calm them down. And that's basically what I was told back in 2016. And then the cough gradually resolved, and when I was on the aircraft carrier, it started to come back. And I was like, yeah, well, I'm on the carrier. I'm not going to do anything about it because, you know, I'm on an aircraft carrier. And then it eventually resolved again when I was off the carrier. And now that I'm here in the desert, the cough has come back with a vengeance and has not resolved. And it's been here for a year and a half. And there are times where I cough so hard that I throw up. And I can't run because as soon as I I can run, but as soon as I stop running or doing any kind of cardio, I have not been able to get a good cardio workout in because as soon as I stop, like 10 minutes later, I go into a horrible coughing fit and it's just miserable. So I have not been able to get a good cardio workout in a year and a half. And when I say a coughing fit, I mean a wheezing, coughing mess where I can't breathe because I'm wheezing and coughing so hard. So I have not been able to get a cardio workout in 18 months. I was training for the Honolulu Marathon before I moved out here to the desert. I could run 10 to 13 miles with absolutely zero problems before I moved out here. And now I can't even run a mile and a half without then being tossed into this coughing frenzy. And then it's miserable. So do the pulmonary function test, pass the regular portion of the test, go into the portion with the medication, do the initial one with the medication, and then he starts into, we're going to do hearts. And then he starts into adding in the medication piece. And essentially you have to do the, add in the diluent or the medication portion. And you have to do the test, twice after you've done a nebulizer treatment with the medication. You then have to do the breathing test twice into the machine. And if your score drops by 20%, then it means that you have asthma. If it doesn't drop by 20%, then you then go to the next step up in dosage of the medication and you repeat the test again. For, I think, you have the saline, the really diluted version, and then 4 additional dosages that you do. But anyways, because there can be more, and mind you, there can be more than just asthma going on with this cough that I have. But do the test. I'm sitting there as the test goes up. We get to a certain point, and one of my tests is below the threshold. One of the tests is above, so we have to do it again. And I'm just barely above the magic number of, the 20%. So that means that we have to proceed. And it's kind of one of those things where it's I'm at that threshold, but I don't meet the wicket, which means that I technically then don't have asthma because I don't meet that 20% decrease. But I'm sitting there tears running down my face because I'm coughing so horribly, and my chest hurts today because of how horribly I was coughing yesterday. And it was the tech that's running my tests. It was man, he's you all right? You're really getting it. You're really feeling this. And I'm yeah, I'm yeah, sorry. I'm just really getting it. And then I go back into the exam room to wait for the pulmonologist to come in. And mind you, it's not the actual, attending. It's the, resident, not the actual attending. And so he comes in, and it's this really young guy, straight out of school. He comes in, looks at me, I filled out this intake paperwork when I first got there. Doesn't even take my intake paperwork that has all of the questions of your breathing history and all the questions that you fill out that has to do with anything that could relate to impact your breathing. Doesn't take the questionnaire from me that I had to fill out when I got there. Doesn't take it from me. he has me give, like, my little bit of a spiel of, like, why I'm there and everything. And then he's, like, doesn't examine me at all. He's like, so your pulmonary function test was normal, so you don't have asthma. He's like, so do you have, any kind of, you have allergies? And I'm like, well, yeah, I have some allergies. I've always had allergies. Like, I've literally always had them. I did 5 years of allergy injections before I came into the military, but those are well controlled with just, you know, a single Zyrtec, and those are under control. And he's like, well, do you have any kind of heartburn? And I'm like, well, a little bit of heartburn, but that's a side effect of my migraine medication, but it's not an all the time thing. And he's like, okay, well, your cough is an upper respiratory thing. It's an upper respiratory thing that's being made worse by the heartburn. And I'm like, okay, thinking to myself, okay, so this cough is coming from my upper respiratory thing, allergies, and the heartburn. Yet, if that was so, why is it? And I'm thinking to myself, I've had, like, this heartburn on and off for 3 years. Why is the cough just now coming on? And why is it when the heartburn is worse, the cough is not worse? Like, if they were correlated, like, it just, yeah. So my medical brain is like, okay, that doesn't make sense, but okay. So his answer was, his answer was basically, you need to use Flonase and a neti pot and take heartburn medication. That was his answer for this chronic cough. Mind you, I cannot take Flonase. Every time I try to take Flonase or any other nasal spray, which I told him, it immediately, within a week of taking those, I start having uncontrollable nosebleeds. So that's a no-go. And on top of that, like, for me, a neti pot is hell. I tried using them once. I know some people love them. I don't get that. But that's just me. I would rather have another knee surgery than subject myself to them, to, like, that sensation and that misery of the neti pot. Like, I cannot stand that sensation. I just cannot do it. So, like, basically I'm like, okay, so that means, like, literally his answer for this cough that I've had present for 1.5 years was essentially calm down the inflammation in my nose. Because he did decide to, you know, let me listen to your lungs, which of course sound fine. And he looked in my nose, which, mind you, I had just spent the last 1.5 hours with basically these pinch clippers pinching my nostrils closed. So if my nose is being pinched closed for 1.5 hours, you can imagine that my nose is going to be swollen. So he's like, yeah, your nostrils are swollen, your nares, like your airways are swollen. And I'm thinking to myself, I literally just spent 1.5 hours with my nostrils pinched closed, with these grippy pinchers that were tight and unpleasant. Of course, my nostrils and my airway is going to be swollen. Like, if I were to do any kind of constriction to any body part like that for 1.5 hours, it will be swollen afterwards. Do you not understand the mechanics of how the human body works? Like, if I restrict a body part for 1.5 hours, it will swell. That's just how the human body works. Like, if I restrict an arm for 1.5 hours like that, it will swell. That's literally what happens. Like, this is human anatomy. That's what, like, this is how the blood vessels work. You restrict the body part, it swells. I know I'm getting a lot more in depth. Sorry. I was just very frustrated by this. And it was like he just completely blew off. I vented to my mom as I was driving home. But I was just so frustrated. because he completely blew off all of my concerns. And I'm like, okay, so maybe this is the answer, but it was like he didn't even bother to, like, he didn't even bother to, like, really explain anything. I know, like, we probably have a lot of people that have been frustrated and have experienced being frustrated with medical and different medical providers, but this was honestly my first time experiencing frustrations with another medical provider. And maybe it's just because, like, I'm medical myself, so I've always had pretty positive experiences with medical and with other medical providers. But so this was kind of like, I guess for me, it was just kind of shocking having that experience of having a medical provider that I felt like just didn't listen to me or didn't even really give me an opportunity to, like, ask a lot of questions. Like, once he was in the room, I was, like, in and out, and it was basically it was like, hey, your pulmonary function test was normal, you don't have asthma, I don't really want to see you again. And I'm like thinking to myself, there's more that could be going on here than just asthma. The interaction that I had, it just wasn't a positive one. And I'm like, okay, I'll go back to see my PCM and I'll take the heartburn medication, even though the heartburn has been, manageable with just taking Tums when it flares up. And we will see if that manages the cough, which I doubt that'll manage the cough because, I've had heartburn for, like the last 3 years since I've started taking this prescription migraine medication. I've had heartburn off and on, so I don't really see how that is going to affect a cough that has been worsening over the last 2 years. And yeah, I've had my allergies have been a little bit worse since I've been out here in the desert, but they haven't been exponentially worse. They weren't worse in Okinawa. They weren't worse on the ship. So I don't see how that would have affected anything. So it's like, okay, I will do that. And I guess I'm back to square one of trying to figure out why I have the cough and what the next steps are, because I can't take nasal sprays. And that was, so when I told him that I can't do nasal sprays and a neti pot was not an option for me, he just kind of like looked at me and didn't even give me he didn't even try to come up with like another solution. It was just like, he was just like, okay. He's like, oh, well, do you want me to put in a prescription for the heartburn medication or give you like a 2-week prescription for heartburn medication or just go to your PCM? Because I can give you like a 2-week trial for it, but you're going to have to go see your PCM. I was just like, whatever, dude. I hope you learn to have like a better bedside manner because you've got, a lot to learn as you grow in your skill set. So, anywho, I'm going to stop my rant. I know you guys probably don't care, but I just needed to vent my frustrations on that whole appointment, which I was hoping to get some answers, and I feel like I did not get answers. So I guess it's good that I don't have any kind of asthma, but at the same time, that was hell, and my chest hurts from how bad I was coughing. And like half of my tests, like I was below the threshold, and half of them I was above the threshold, but then we would retest and I would be just above the threshold, so I technically passed, but it was like borderline passing according to the technician. But it was still a pass, so technically I don't have it, but it was like, okay. So I can't wait to go like read my results on my patient portal tomorrow and do my research myself so I can actually know what it was. So anyways, I'm going to stop beating the dead horse of this and go from there. And I don't like leaving things on like the downer note of this. Anyways, we will get back to cheerier stuff. Mochi is sitting in her basket over in the corner, which is pure adorableness. And I have made pretty good progress on this section right here. I do want to kind of show you guys, yeah, I will show you guys two of my other Great Wave off of Kanagawa items that I have. So I think that would be kind of fun to do. So I'm going to go grab those real quickly and show you that. This adorableness is a cheap, I can't remember if this was an Amazon or a Temu find, but it is a 3-dimensional, I'll do it like this so you can see. It is a 3-dimensional Great Wave off Kanagawa made of Legos with little boats with little people in them. So I made that one. And then you have the actual official Lego Great Wave off Kanagawa with like the Lego dots. So there is that one, which is a super adorable one as well. So when I say that I like the Great Wave off Kanagawa, I like the Great Wave off Kanagawa. So hence me doing the painting, because here are two other variations of it, and now I'll have a diamond painting of the Great Wave off Kanagawa to go with.